And wasn't it a group of people in Wayside that started putting the telephone lines across so they could be in contact?
To Happy. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm sure Melton told you part of it, didn't he? Well, I know that his dad, my dad, and several other of them went in, and at that time they tied it onto a barbed wire fence. They insulated the fence, and they did have telephones, the old battery radios, telephones, the magneto deal. You could have a lot of fun on Sunday evening with that telephone, getting people lined up and crank it a little.
What was the exact location of your Grandpa Tipton's place?
I don't know the section number or anything like that, but it was on the Happy Draw, Happy Draw, which was about a mile southwest of where the road is now. The road came right by their house, the old road did, which, if you know where to look, you can see still see that old road, the print of it, where it goes across. My oldest brother and oldest sister was born in the canyon. They moved out in 1905, as I said. Then I had another sister, Doris, that was born in 1905. After they moved up into where their house was. And then there's 9 of us kids lived, and there's 14 children in the family. There's 5 of them died as infants. And we're scattered from California to Florida. Well, I'd say that my folks taught us to respect and be courteous and behave, especially when we went to church. And he was a deacon in the Baptist church, and we always had a preacher for lunch on Sunday, generally. And most of them, and back in those days, $5 to $10 a Sunday was a big price, and it was pretty hard to get a Sunday. And in their school, I went through the grade school. Then I went to W.T. High in 1933. I graduated from high school in 36. And then my sister, just older than I and younger than I, and my younger brother, Dad decided to be cheaper to rent a house, and they all came into Canyon to school in. And while I was in school, I was more or less, I worked on a dairy to start with, and that interfered with my athletics. I quit that job, and then I stayed in a kind of a boarding house deal for another year. In the summer of 35, I went to school in the summer, and the folks that owned the funeral home at that time were the Thompsons, which we had been there a long time, and folks, Dad knew them well. And I stayed at the funeral home for my room, and I ate at a co-op where we all went together and pooled in, and we could eat for somewhere around between $7 and $8 a month. And I got my room free for working at the funeral home, which was a great experience to me. And even today, while they still call on me to mark off all the graves, everything in Wayside, Texas, when I'm available. So I got quite an experience working there. And then I got married in 39, and she was a high school sweetheart. We were seated alphabetic, you know, and she was a Harris and I was a Hamblen. We sat side by side for 2 years in school. And then in 47, we bought our first farm, a section of land. Well, my wife's name was Flora Bernice Harris Hamblen. And she's the best tractor driver, truck driver, milk cows of anybody in the country when we were young. My brother had a combine, and we worked together while we farmed together before I got married. But she would have to cook for 2 thresher crews. And when we first got married, we were milking cows. And she'd generally do the milking in the evening and then have to fix supper for about 7 of us. So she didn't sit still very long at any time, and still doesn't. Everything has to be perfect, which should be. Keep it nice and clean. And we've had a good life. We've farmed. We have accumulated up to 2,000 acres in our farm now. And in 84, we decided it's time to quit, and we leased our land out. We bought us an RV, fifth wheel. We've been traveling ever since. When we was able, when we could. We used to go to Colorado all the time, but she's developed a little heart trouble and she can't get into the high country. We don't have any children, but we got about 70 some odd nieces and nephews.